Hi, it's Harry Redknapp here. You're listening to a proper podcast. It's the Alan Hudson podcast. It's proper football, proper talk.
Hello again. Welcome to the Alan Hudson podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. We've got a very special edition for you here today. This month marks the 50th anniversary of Alan's debut, and what a memorable debut it was. England 2, West Germany 0 at Wembley, and we're lucky enough that one of his teammates has joined us to celebrate the 50th anniversary. It is, of course, Mick Channon. Mick, welcome aboard.
I'm the only one who's left alive, I think, am I?
Yeah, we're the only two, aren't we? No, Keegan's still here, McDonald's still here.
Yeah.
Ian Gillard's still around.
A few, bless them, but we've lost a few of them, but they were great days. I remember the game with me, so with someone with dementia, I remember it very well, actually.
What's that?
Well, the first thing, Michael, is really the game's obviously. I think that the last time, did we talk about Tuchel or something? I spoke to Letizia about that. He weren't very happy with Tuchel, but yeah.
Yeah, well, Letiz was a long time after me.
I know, but we were talking about he being becoming England manager. He was against it, He seemed to think we had enough England managers to do a good job.
Yeah. What was he knocking? The England managers or the system or what? He
was knocking the system. He was knocking the system, really. I mean, he's very opinionated lad as well, isn't he?
Well, we all are, really.
Well, we all are. But I think he goes into the politic one as well, doesn't he? And he don't.
Well,
I done a show with him in my mate's pub about 3 months ago, and I just said to the audience, I think Tuchel is a good thing, and he went bang. We don't need them. We're English. We're English. We don't need these people. Well, you've had all the others in, haven't you?
Well, hey, listen.
After
the opinions are like arseholes. We all got one, haven't we? What I'm trying to say is, that sums Letiz up. But hey, listen, he was a great player. Nevertheless, he was, like yourself, he was one of them who should have played for a lot more for England than you did. But listen, I wouldn't be too worried about Letiz. He's had his day, and we were lucky enough that we were there on. Well, this game was a cracking game, 2-0, and the pitch was pretty cut up as we could see it, but we didn't pass the bloody ball back to the goalkeeper from corner kicks and things like that. We'd have soon got our ass kicked, wouldn't we, if we'd done that?
Well, that I don't know if you watched last night, but I know you can't compare. And England at the moment, I'm thinking about yourself, because what I liked about England that night, was being a midfield player, and obviously having Bally there was the key for my success. But and Colin Bell was doing the running, but I found we had 3 completely different strikers. Whenever Keegan come that way or Malcolm come that way, I knew that he was always going there.
Well, absolutely, but
behind.
That's the way it was. Jesus, in Southampton in them days, we had to go. Someone had to go the other way because we were usually bogged down. As I always remember, as Shankly said, the alehouse team, they called us. We used to have a system 191, and I was the one. Well, they were tough days. So, but like you said, we had some good players. Keegan was electric that night, and yourself you had a blinder. I don't think you only played one more after that, didn't you?
Yeah. I should have retired. I should have retired after that one, Michael, gracefully.
Yeah.
But no, it was. What can you say? It was. I think it was a real. To think that we had 2 fullbacks for debutants as well, QPR lad and the Leicester lad, Ian Gillard. I know him as a player. And they wasn't
QPR, wasn't he?
Yeah. So it was, you had three debutants in, and I know I do maintain there's this thing with Revy, that he put me in there he could have played me a couple of games before. He never even put me on the bench, and I think he's saving me for the Germans. He don't think I can do it, so that suited me. And I said to Bawley, and I said, I think you're in the same category. He thinks you're past it, mate.
Yeah, well, Bawley. I mean, Bawley. No one can speak more highly of Bawley than me, but possibly you. Because
yeah.
I mean, you got on great with him. I thought you'd have played for England, you two together for years. But it just, hey, listen, managers they come and go, didn't they? They were
yeah.
And that's what you got when you think of Aussie and, as we said, Latiz and people like that. There's a lot of people. You could say Marshy as well. There was a lot of players about that should have probably played a lot more for England, and you three being the main ones.
Well, I think probably that night, the only way I could have, because it was close to becoming a bit of a circus, the way we had the ball so much.
Yeah.
And to finish that circus, maybe if Curry had played alongside me and Bawley, with the greatest respect with Colin Bell, was a good player, and probably Big Frank up front, Frank Worthington with you and Keegan, and that he would have been the clown prince.
Who else played up front with us? I can't remember.
Malcolm.
Keegan. Who?
Malcolm.
Oh, of course, yeah. Malcolm McDonald. Of course he did. Yeah, he scored.
Yeah, he got the first goal, didn't
yes, Colin,
he got a second goal.
Colin Todd played as well at the back,
Yeah.
They had some good players. Bloody hell. It was a good team.
It was a good team. It was a good team, considering the manager didn't look at it as a team to build on. Well, you'd think with three debutants on, it would be a team to build on.
Yeah, probably.
You must have only been, what, 28, 29?
Yeah.
27?
Yeah.
28?
Well, as I said, I mean, I think probably the problem with England over the years has been you could have had 2 or 3 teams in our era. You could have put 3 or 4 teams on the pitch, and they would all, in their turn, they'd all have beaten each other, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Hey, listen. But like you say, Revy was the manager, and I said before that who was it before that? Then it was Joe Mercer, and then Alf, wasn't it?
Well, Alf was the last manager before him, but they brought a couple of interim managers in. They got Joe Mercer. Ron Greenwood had the job.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, of course, Mick. That obviously the Germans were at their peak then. I mean, they were the world champions. And I'm just looking through the team now. I mean, what great players they had. Bertie Vogts, Rainer Bonhoff, Beckenbauer. Of course,
Beckenbauer, was he playing? I can't.
Yeah.
He played, didn't he?
I like that. Mick, I like that.
But I said, hey, listen, they could have stuck 2 or 3 England teams out. But as I said, on the night, I thought it was a bloody good game. It was heavy old ground that night, wasn't it, Alan? That's the main. I mean, I haven't seen, Wembley, I haven't seen a game played in this country like that for a bloody while now, have we?
Well, I think it suited us to the extent that, I mean, usually the Germans play that way. They're a passing team, aren't they? But that night, there was hardly anything. It long back to front. It was all going through midfield and into you, into Keegan, into Malcolm. Malcolm was really making runs that really only Malcolm can make, and then rub his knee afterwards. All right, So it was.
Supermax still all right though. He's still well, isn't he?
Yeah. Well,
right. Yeah. It's good that the boys are still around. That's but yes, he was a character in his own right. Supermax.
Well, he was.
Sorry, Al. Can I just ask you what you meant by that? You said he was running around, he was rubbing his knee.
Well, he was always, whenever anything cropped up, I spent a lot of time at Arsenal with him, and it was always when anything went wrong, he'd rub his knee. People had these little quirks, didn't they? And Don Howe wouldn't stand for that. Don knew what was going on,
Yeah.
So, but that was Malcolm.
He could score goals though, bless him. You know, if you had to load the gun though.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it was interesting in training because it was like it reminded me much like young Frank Lampard. I first see him training at West Ham, and I thought this kid's going to get a lot of goals wherever he goes. And obviously, he went to Chelsea. It's not how many goals you actually score, is it? It's how many miss before you score.
Absolutely.
Frank hardly ever missed. Frank was like every shot. When he shot,
Yeah,
I bet he was on target 95 out of 100. Now today that don't happen.
no, well, bloody hell, they don't shoot either, do they?
Well, yeah, there's that.
They want to pass the bloody thing in the goal, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, in our day, Jesus Christ, you get near the box and you usually had a go, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying it was always right, but I tell you what, it made for a spectacle. It made football interesting, and it got the punters on their feet, and the things, you know, they were good. They were good days. There was some good football, and it worked out a good game that West Germany game. You know, it was a good game, end to end, on soft pitch, Wembley, bloody hell, and some good. When you look at the England teams, we had some good players. They had some good players. I mean,
yeah. As I say, Michael, that was a mystery of it all. It was he had no tension, no intention. I mean, both the fullbacks did well. We did well in midfield. You did well up front. There was no reason to kind of change that team.
no,
You know?
as I said, but I mean, in those days, like England, apart from the home internationals, you're probably lucky to play 2 or 3 games a year. Apart from that, weren't you? You know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the whole system was probably a little bit different. I'm not, you know, saying that it was right or it was wrong, but home internationals was a brilliant tournament, you know, and you know, I mean, everybody wanted to play in the England-Scotland game, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that everything sort of built up to those. I think the managers built up to those games, you know. And in the foreign games, when you went abroad, was quite rare, really. It didn't happen very often.
Plus the fact you had it was the only time George Best get to play at Wembley, really, when Northern Ireland come to play against England. That was his showpiece.
That's right, yeah. Dugan and all those, you know, all those lads got an outing, didn't they? You know.
Well, it was great. I think they scrapping with it. I mean, that's always a wrong one, you know.
Well, some of the games you see now against some of these countries, the game the other night, Jesus, I'd rather watch a scab form than watch that game, be honest with you. Bloody hell, I mean, it was pitiful, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Listen, hey, I know, hey, we're grumpy old men now, so it's very, very difficult to sort of be objective about it. But I mean, I didn't see any pleasure out of that game at all, apart from they kept the ball for bloody, you know, probably 80 minutes of the bloody 90 they played.
Yeah.
It was boring. Just boring.
Yeah. I think football has become a little bit that, Mark, even at Premier League.
Well,
I mean,
what about people? What about the kids that, you know, going to the game? It's costing 50 quid to get in these bloody games. How's it going to last? That's my worry for football, not for Mick Channon or Alan Hudson, but hey, we want the kids to be able to go and play football and go and watch football. I mean, that's where the supporters are going to be. All right, we've got these podcasts that we're on now, or the television, and it's wall to wall football if you want it. But as I said, it's far better if you got a chance to go to the real game and play and watch the professionals. That's my views anyway. But like you say, please don't say I'm a grumpy old man, because everybody,
you said that.
Everybody knows that.
How do you think you would cope in the modern era, Mick?
Well, I don't know. I think we would have survived in our own way, but I don't think I would have been much of a player, because, you know, the last player to get the ball was the people up front now. I mean, I think the likes of Alan would have been a superstar, and Bowley's and that, they would have stood the test of time. You couldn't see Colin Bell being at it forever. Keegan was a good player. He was someone who'd come back and get the ball. But, you know, to survive at Southampton, we had to get in behind people, you know, and it's really the circumstances that that we were brought up in, and
Yeah.
I go back to the old team, I had, my biggest asset was I was quick and I could score goals. I used to miss a lot as well, like Alan said, in our day, it wasn't always the best players, but you had to get in behind people. Pace is everything, really. You get in one-on-one situations, you had every chance of beating people, but you very rarely get in that now because people just, teams just drop off and just defend the penalty box, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. And there's another thing you spoke about me and Bowley there is I think the difference is we wouldn't pass it back to defenders.
No,
we wouldn't pass it back. If we get it up the
what said is if you pass it to a defender, you get a kick up the ass because the players want the time. We're usually up front. We want the half second or the split second just to get a shot away, or get into the box and get half a yard on somebody. You know that.
Well, you can imagine Big Jake McGrath playing 1-2s on the edge of the box.
Usually with you or with your head. they're the only players, good, thank God for who was the big centre forward that played for Burnley and Lockhead. Thank God we had him. Do you know what? Because as a forward player, we got to a stage when you Jakes and those big centre halves they used to knock the ball. They used to head the back of your head.
Yeah.
And it was the most painful thing. And defenders would say, "Get hold of it." I says, "Get hold of it? How the fuck do you get hold of that?" And the ball would be flying back by, and do you know what stopped? Do you know what stopped him heading the back of your head? Andy Lockhead. He governed. It was self-governed. He threw his head back and smashed half a dozen noses. There was scarlet everywhere. And I tell you what, they smashed their noses. And I tell you what, they stopped heading the back of your head. Football managed itself. And he was responsible. He was a bloody tough man and a good, very good player. He played for, I think, Aston Villa as well. He was a very good player.
Yeah, I see him play twice for Burnley, but Burnley up turf more against Chelsea, and he ruined Chelsea. He ruined Chelsea.
Hey, Burnley were a tough place to go. I didn't want to go there. I was a soft southerner. I didn't like going to Burnley. I can tell you that now.
Well,
you wanted one over the top, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't mind going on. Yeah.
Well, they had some good players at Burnley side. They would have had Leighton James and Dave Thomas.
No, before that.
Ralph Coates.
Oh, yeah.
Before that. Before when Andy Lockhead played, they had a team.
McElroy, he was a good midfield. Remember him?
Great player.
Bloody good player he was.
Yeah, they had Gordon Harris, Jimmy Adamson played.
Goalkeeper, what was it?
Blacklaw. Yeah. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Alex Elder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who went to Stoke? John Angus. They had a brutal team.
That was a tough place to go. I was a soft southerner. When we went up there, I didn't want to know. Get me back south where it's warm.
Get me back to the racetrack. you got Buddha O'Neill from them, didn't you?
Brian O'Neill. Bless him. He's not very well.
And
he's in hospital. He lives with his daughter up in Yorkshire somewhere. But I speak to him every morning. Bless him. He rings every day. He's 80. He's not in great nick, but he still rings up about the horses and wants to know how they're going and do we fancy him and what have you. So it's good to hear. But he was a tough player. He
was hard that way.
I always remember, Brian, we played at Tottenham in the old days, and it was at White Hart Lane when you remember the pitches used to freeze, and at half time you'd have half the pitch was white and half the pitch was soft, where the sun hadn't got to. And I remember playing against Tottenham, and we were playing that system, same old system. And it was a long ball. They knocked a long ball over the top of Mike England. I've just got there just before him, touched it past him. Next thing I know, he's whacked me, and I've slid off the soft ground onto the ice, It took half my backside off, And I thought to myself, I was on the ground. It was so cold, horrible day. And I always remember lying on the ground there. And by the time they got to me, I always remember Brian O'Neill was the first player to get to me. And he said to me, "What number was that?" It was one of the nicest things, when you're in a bit of pain and that. And I thought, I've got someone looking after me. And it was great days. Brian was a great character.
We went on tour. Chelsea and Southampton went on tour together.
Yeah.
And I remember Buddha in the swimming pool with a rubber ring on.
Sorry, Alan, let me just stop you. You got to explain to people who Buddha is.
Brian O'Neill, his name was Buddha.
He had no hair. He's a bit like me now.
But he had a rubber ring on. I don't know if it was a get-up or he couldn't swim, and you had Jimmy Gabriel at one end of the pool throwing bottles of vodka to him and then diving after him, and he was sitting there getting the bottles from the bottom and giving them with a rubber ring on, drinking them. Oh, mate, what a trip.
He was a great character. Jimmy Gabriel, you spoke about John McGrath, Dennis Hollywood. Yeah. We had some rascals, Huey Fishers, Yeah. It went on
Big
and on.
Big Ron.
That's right. And I always remember.
You must have been a kid when you got in the team with Ron Davis.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Well, I got in when it was Ron Davis and Martin Chivers. And they sold Martin Chivers to play me. See?
Yeah.
He went to Tottenham and what have you. But they were some great days. I always remember Brian O'Neill nicking Payne's trousers. He ended up in the pool, Payne said, "Where's my trousers?" Had to go to the game, and he'd been in the pool with his trousers on. So, they're mad, but they were great fun. You know that, Jesus.
Well,
would Mick have played in your Chelsea debut? Your Chelsea debut was at Southampton.
Yeah.
Did he play that day?
He scored as well.
Did we beat you?
5-0. Could have been 25.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
Could have been 25.
We beat Chelsea 5-0, but you used to beat us a few times.
Well, no, but I was 17 and I was Ozzy and Charlie, Tommy and Boilers were caught in a restaurant the day before and they were thrown, not playing the next. So they brought me and a couple of others in who shouldn't have been playing, But I remember it was like the Alamo. Oh, mate.
Hey, it was a tough place to go, the Dell. I'll tell you, that's what I said. We were soft Southerners, but I tell you, your Liverpools and that didn't like coming to Southampton. I can assure you.
Yeah. Well, you played the game.
Made the league so good. That's what made the league so strong, because you could go they could go anywhere and get beat. Now, teams go wherever they go. The top 4 or 5 teams, they always win, don't they?
Well, you never see Mick. You never see. Getting the ball out of John Sydenham and he pass it back.
No.
He'll go bang, and he know where
where John Sydenham's going to go. He used to go up the track. I've seen John Sydenham knock it by a fullback and run along the track and back onto the field.
Like a race,
and he was quick as well, wasn't he?
Like a greyhound, yeah.
They were good days, yeah. Good.
But the amount of great players you played with, Mick. Bawley. Ozzy was at Southampton for a while. Kevin Keegan had a spell at Southampton.
Charlie George was there. Terry Payne was. Hey, everyone hated Payne. They hated him. He was the most hated player, I think.
Another one here. I'm another one.
Who, you weren't?
I hated him.
Oh yeah, you hated him. I thought you meant, but he was a very, very talented player. He win games. We survived Payne through him being a little bit cute. He had knocked balls. He was a great player. But he played in the England World Cup team, didn't
he? Yeah.
Who's got a phone ringing?
Not me.
Must be you.
Oh, is it? Let's go on.
Don't touch whatever you do. Don't touch the laptop.
I know. I'm not going to touch anything.
Don't touch anything.
I'm just looking at your England record. It's not often spoken about your goal record for England. 21 goals in 46 games. That's prolific.
Well, yeah, it was. But we had, I was lucky. I played with some good England. Half my games under Alf under Alf, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Said in them days it was a settled team, you know. To get into Alf's team wasn't very easy, but once you got in, it was fucking hard to get out unless you'd something real, you know.
Yeah,
And that's probably and that's probably where Al and a few of those other lads suffered.
Yeah.
He didn't change very quick, did he? It was very slow. The turnover process. Now you can buy England caps in Woolworths. So, you know, if you pick for your first team, you might get a game for England on Wednesday if you're lucky. You know, but that's the way it is. I mean, times have changed.
But going back to your goal scoring record, you know, you didn't play against the teams like I watched last night and you watched the other night. You know,
that's what I was trying to say. The games we played, those home internationals, and even the Wales and the Ireland games were bloody tough.
Yeah, yeah.
The Scottish game was the one you all wanted to play in. I mean, and Jesus, and that was a real build-up. Those games were.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think the worst thing they ever come up with abandoning them because they were great.
They were like the foundations. You know, that was where you built your team. You know, managers every year knew that they could put players there and have a look at players.
Absolutely, you know?
And what I'm trying to say is within the 22, and you were away for you were away for a sort of 10 days together. Never mind, you know, this. I don't know, but they have two teams out now, England, don't they? If they have, you know, if you only had one sub in the old days. I'm not saying you shouldn't have two or three, but what I'm trying to say is what they do, they change the whole team over. Who wants to pay? Who's going to pay 40 or 50 quid to go and watch that? And then second half, watch the second team play.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think it's crazy. I mean,
no, it is right. I mean, you only got to look at yourself, haven't you? You look at yourself and you think. I mean, my strength was as the game went on, I got stronger.
Yeah.
So I'd have been no good playing.
Clever, easy. You were fit as a flea. You could.
Yeah, but I got stronger. I trained for 120 minutes, not 90 minutes. I used to know. I learned it at an early age when I got in. When I played against you, got stuffed, and I thought, oh, I got to get stronger here. And I actually trained to get stronger as the game went on. So if you got managers picking an England team and he's changing it half time and I've come off, I'm just starting to warm up. You know. So they wouldn't have seen the best of me. I got better as it went on, but so there was no common sense in changing the team, was there?
No.
One or two maybe, but
as I said the hardest thing was to get in the team. Once you got in, it was bloody hard to get out of it. It was almost as hard to get out.
Yeah,
you had to be real crap, you know, not turn up at all, you know. But you ask anyone that was under Ramsey. You know, I mean, there ain't many of us left, you know. But what I'm trying to say is, once we got in the team, and he had respect for you, and you towed the line and turned up and performed, you know, you were in the team basically as long as you kept performing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I don't know. I really don't know what he had against Oz. Because Oz, you know.
Oh, but Oz had those injuries at a very, very awkward side. Oz was brilliant. Was a brilliant player from 16 to 20. He was one of the best players I think I've ever seen in my life. And then he had some nasty injuries, didn't he?
Well, he had the broken leg, which
but
they said he would never get over. But he did. He changed his game then, Mickey. He changed the.
Didn't you think? And I had spent a lot of time with Oz, and I Oz in lots of ways. But he put on a fair bit of condition in his. He couldn't go through the angles he used to when he was 16 to 20, if you know what I mean. He just put on that little bit of bulk, and he couldn't. But he still had a football brain. We won the FA Cup with him, so you know. You know, we had a great time. But what I'm trying to say is, I remember him when he was at Chelsea in his heyday. Bah, he was some player. A big man, strong, good in the air, brilliant touch for a big fella, and he was quick, and he could get round tight angles, and you know, the center of gravity for him was very low, and he stood up when a lot of us were on our asses, you know.
He was a wizard.
Yeah, I think he was as well. I think he was. It It was just that he broke his leg, and I tell you, it was a massive thing, breaking a leg then and just losing that little bit of mobility. Just a fraction was the difference.
How much did you enjoy playing with him when he came to Southampton?
Ozzy was a lovely. If you knew Ozzy, he's a lovely man. You know, we had a lot of great fun together. You know, not because we played football, but socially as well. You know, and I mean, Laurie McMenemy, to be fair, saved his life in taking him to Southampton. And it was sad that he died as young as he did, because Ozzy was just starting to love coaching and training. You know, he was wanting to go into that side of it. And not a lot of people know that, but hey, football was his life. Do you know what? It reminds me of Rooney. Rooney, now you look at him, and football was his life. That's everything to him. I had other interests. I had other things. You know, I love my horses and lots of other things in life.
This is a hobby. This is a hobby.
Well, that's what they, you know. But it was, football was something you did on a weekend.
And you loved it.
Huh?
Yeah.
But you know, once you become a professional, you think you're different, but you're still the same person. Yeah. You know, and really, when you look at some of the great players, I always think that Rooney. Now, if Rooney was a coach, given a chance as being just a coach, he needs someone just to steer him in the right direction. I think the lad is football mad. He loves his football. He's got a great football brain, and really, he's untapped. No one understands. And Bawley was a bit like it. You got Ozzy was a bit like it. I've seen Bawley became a bloody good coach, but he, you know, when Laurie McMenemy was the boss, Bawley was the manager, but Laurie McMenemy, you know, run the club. It worked at Southampton. The whole thing worked. And I honestly feel that there's players around today, when you look at them, you look at Rooney, and I think, say, hey, he's a football man. All he wants to do is be on the field with the players, Alan. Just, you know, coaching them and just telling them and talking to them, living with them, being part of it. And Ozzy was the same. He couldn't give the game away when he finished. And a lot of other players I know couldn't either. Mick Channon, I was lucky because I had other interests. I wanted to do other things, and I just feel that if he was with, you know, he went to Plymouth Argyle, really, and they give him the job. They threw everything at him, thought he was the maestro. He was going to fix it all. He could fix it all if it was just football, but he can't fix, you know, so and so having an affair with so and so down the road, and you know, I mean, fucking who knows what's going on? You're mad, wasn't it? What I'm trying to say is the lad is football mad and wants it to work. Ozzy was the same. Bawley was the same. The people I've seen, you know, have got to love the game and live the game, and they did.
The other thing was, Ozzy was, I got this impression that when Ozzy was at Chelsea, he was like the king. He was, everything went through us in the dressing room and all that, and he didn't answer to anybody. Nobody. Yeah. I get a feeling when he went to Southampton, that changed, and he got a kind of, you were that kind of person. You, maybe because it was your club where it wasn't his, you know?
Yeah, but they're a strong character. Yeah, it takes a while to be part of a club sometimes. You don't just go into a club and all of a sudden, you know, it just fits. You know, what I'm trying to say is, in lots of cases, you know, players work into being players at football clubs. And, you know, it's very hard to change a whole system once one player comes in. And that's why a lot of things don't work out straight away. I went to Man City, couldn't kick my ass. Couldn't pass the ball fucking 10 yards. But what I'm trying to say is, hey, but it was a different ball game. I went to Man City. When I went to Man City, I was the last player to get the ball. You know what I'm saying? Is it Southampton? What did they do? The first thing they ever did at Southampton was give the ball to Mick Channon, because he's quick. You get in behind him, he cause problems. But you know, when I went to Man City, I was the last person to get it. Everyone would do their little bit on it. I'd get it when I didn't fucking want it. No, but I mean, that was the crazy thing about it. It was understanding the football itself.
Well,
Just remind us who the players were at City when you joined.
Well, there was Asa Hartford, there was Dave Watson, there were Colin Bell was still there, Dennis Stewart, Peter
I remember
Barnes, Owen. You know, we had some good players.
you had did the other kid come up? I played against you one night. Come on half time and sub in the League Cup, and we won 1-0. Chippy scored a penalty, I think. But did Steve Williams there?
Steve Williams at Southampton. Yeah, he was.
Did he not go to Man City?
No, he went to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Steve Williams, he was in their good Arsenal team. George Graham, wasn't it? I think he fell out with George, didn't he?
Well,
I think, but you know, from what I hear, anyone could probably fall out with George, but so they could me. I don't mean to be horrible in that sense, you know. But yeah, hey, listen, if you, as I said, opinions are like, you know, but that's the way things were. You know, you had your say, and you either sunk or swim, really, didn't you?
yeah. Well, I mean, I still found it very difficult to see how he was such a disciplinarian, and yet he's got all them drunks in his team. You know, their Tuesday afternoons out were notorious. You know, everybody said, because I remember when Steve Bold went there from Arsenal to play with Adams and them. Yeah. And one of the lads said to me one day, "You sent us one down here." He said, "Did you teach him to drink?" He said, "Because it's almost if he's tipping his drinks in the plants, you know, that we're all falling over and he's just standing there." I think it comes from good stock from the Potterers, you know. But George let him go. I mean, I've read Tony Adams' book. He says he can't remember nothing about the double season. He was so drunk all the time, you know. And that happened while George.
I agree with you. I think that we used to think we had a good time, but some of the lads had
oh my God,
you know, some great. But they were listen. But when a lot of the stories we hear, most of it's been in their spare time. It's been in their time off. And hey, you've got to do something with, you know, when you get time on your hands, you're either going to steal. You're going to either steal, shag, or fucking drink, aren't you? You're going to do one of the three, huh?
Well, that's where you were lucky when you had your horses.
Yeah. Well, I had another interest. I think that was.
Yeah. How they going? Are you? I know Jack's running them.
My son's. I've passed it over to him now. So I'm nearly 77. So I'm on. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the glass mountain. You know, it's one of those situations where he's taken over and he's making a good job of it at the moment. So
yeah.
But Michael's helping him. You got Michael here as well, and because Michael was very close to Bawley, he played in in Bawley's reserve teams and things like that. And young Alan Boy goes and watches him play. He's manager at Tottenham, you know.
Oh, Jimmy, yeah.
Jimmy's at Tottenham. So, hey, I'm very proud of my lads. They're still interested in the people that they grew up with, and I think that's nice that they still remember.
Well, it's great.
Remember where they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. But I remember my finest story, just off football for another minute, was when you told Bawley about they never get too close to your horse. Whether it was Go Gunner or someone or another one. He was telling me, he was at Kempton one day, and he said, Channon told me, never get too close to your horses, he said. And then one day, he said, I woke up, he says, and I looked at the paper and see my horse was running. He said, and I picked up the phone to him. I gone, Mick, my horse is running today. And you said, it ain't your horse anymore. I sold it last night. I told him not to get close to him. Imagine that being a footballer.
Hey, but as I said, you always remember, although I love horses, and it was me living after football. You know, my job was to train them, not fall in love with them. You know.
Yeah, sure.
They're there to do a job, and football was the same, really. You know, we had to turn up, go and play. If we didn't play, we were out on our ear. You know that.
Yeah.
And that was the way. That's the way it all went. You know.
Yeah.
Where did your trademark goal celebration come from?
Well, as I said, we come back to the system we used to play, and invariably I was up the pitch usually on my own. And if I got in behind someone, I was that far from a teammate, they were back on the halfway line, And I remember scoring at Stamford Bridge one night. I was all on my own. It took me ages to get back to the rest of the players. With knocked the long ball knocked through, went round and scored. And so by the time, you got to do something. I mean, you had time on your hands, didn't you? So it became the old windmill became the. I should have copyrighted it, shouldn't I? It might have been worth a few quid now. Al. We could have had a few drinks on this.
Oh, so the first time you did it was actually at Stamford Bridge.
Well, no, I think I did it a few. I can't remember. It just became a way of celebrating in the end. I mean, if it was a tight penalty box, you couldn't do it because everybody was around. But invariably, it was when you got on the end of a long ball. That's where it started. All
Yeah.
In the end, I had to try and do it anyway.
You mentioned your time at Man City earlier, and you obviously had your fair share of troubles down there. When you got back to Southampton, did you immediately feel as if you were back home?
Well, it worked out. It worked out because Bowley was there. That was the great thing. I mean, and that, as I'll tell you, I mean, Bowley was infectious. Bowley was. There will never be another Alan Ball, let me tell you, to motivate people and to get people wound up, or however you do. How do you get them? How do you get people firing for you? Bowley was brilliant at it. He knew how to make people work and make it. And he was a great loss. He was a great friend, but a great loss. To a lot of people, and but a great footballer as well. And that was Al. I'm sure Al will vouch for him as well.
Well, I think what with Bowley, I think the thing that with me was with a lot of footballers, they go home and that's the end of it. It never ended with Bowley, did it? You could be out 3 o'clock in the morning and he'll pick you out. He'll dig someone out.
Yeah.
And he'll dig you out, a bit, and it'll be better than any team meeting.
Yeah.
What happened to you Saturday? And I think Ozzy got a bit of that off him.
Yeah,
we used to go in pubs in Chelsea on the way home, and he said to me one night, he said, "Not good enough today." He said to me. I said, "Well, I'm having a bit of it." He said, "Don't give me no fucking flannel." He says, "If you stop playing in midfield, we stop fucking getting the ball up front." He said, "You sort yourself out."
Yeah.
That's the manager's job.
Yeah.
And he was doing that, and he was good at that. Oz.
But in our day, Alan, there was a lot of old players that really, they run the show, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is, the manager picked the team, but the players run the team. If you know what I mean. I mean, all the bollocks about fucking coaching and that. Hey, but I think you need channeling. I'm not saying coaching, channeling. You put people in the situation where that they're good, what they're good at. And invariably that's when you get a good team, and you work through players like Alan, like Bowley, through.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Mike, is that was why I always say Don Howe was the best. Don Howe would be, what he'd sort out what we'd have to do and all that. But once you got out there and played, you played.
Yeah,
get on with it. Get on with it. But you had defensively. He had everybody sorted out. I mean, he won the FA Cup.
You can organise a defence. You can't always organise your front players because they're the people who've got to create half a yard or half an inch to get a shot away, to poke a goal in. And that was the difference between winning and losing. Whereas defence, a lot of good coaches are good at organising probably the back four, the back five, or what have you. A couple of midfield players, what I'm trying to say is, and releasing players, giving the likes of Alan or Bowley would give you a bit more freedom. What I'm trying to say is, and that's where everybody complemented each other, and that's where the good teams came out of it. When you look at who would have picked Nobby Stiles to play for England in the World Cup final? Bless him. What a great job he did. They wouldn't have won the World Cup without him. And yet, you know, you say, well, he wasn't one of the best players, but he was a good player. He was part of the team.
Yeah, he did exactly what he wanted him to do, didn't he?
Absolutely, he was what the manager wanted, and that's where the managers and the coach come into their own, when they can organise something defensively and know, like you talked about. Bowley was brilliant when he was at Southampton. He got the job at Southampton, and he gave Latiz, you know, free reign, and they were brilliant. You know, that was the best Southampton were for a few years. You know.
Yeah.
And Laurie McMenemy was the manager. Bowley was the team manager.
Yeah.
Bowley could organise just the team, and he had Laurie there to lean on. If he wanted to leave someone out, it was easy, wasn't it? You know what I'm trying to say? It wasn't Bowley, but Bowley could go to someone, put their arm around him and say, hey, come here. Hey, I want you to do this. And, you know, and I think knowing Alan, and that's when he was at his best. But when
the TDA echoes that, yeah. He said that's the best he ever played under Bowley.
Yeah. But when he went to City, he was on his own. He needed a bit of help. Sometimes you need a bit of guidance. He went to Man City. No one's going to help you at Man City. Let me tell you, you're on your fucking own, and get on with it. You know, man overboard, and they throw you an anchor.
I mean, you play with so many great players in your illustrious career. I know it's probably an impossible question to answer, but who would be for you the best player you ever played with?
I don't know. I mean, Bowley would be high up there, because he wasn't just a player. He was a character as well. He understood you. He knew what you wanted. He knew what your strengths were. You know, but you know, Terry Payne was. I come back to Terry Payne, who was one of the most disliked players, and everybody wanted to kill him. But what I'm trying to say is, what a football brain he had. You know, Ted Bates knew that, the manager, and he knew it. You know, but you give it to Payne. First thing Payne he did, and I'm not saying it because it was me, but the first thing Payne he did when he got the ball in midfield was look for me, because he knew if I got half a yard on someone, I was going to. It'd be a chance of scoring a goal.
You're off.
Hey, listen, we were the first game of the season at the Dell in the old days. The old magazine program come on the television. They used to say another relegation game at the Dell. It was the first game of the season. You know, we were written off before we started. So, you know, to be fair, Ted Bates set us out to survive every year. And we did. Took years and years before we got relegated. But we were a tough team to beat. You know what I'm trying to say is, and when teams come to the Dell, you know, hey, they knew they were going to be in a game, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, there were a lot better teams than us. But you know, I mean, that's the way I see it. Anyway, that's the way
the league was, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. But how good was he, Ron Davis?
Oh, in the air, he was unbelievable. I mean, fitness-wise, he was one of the fittest men I've ever seen.
Yeah.
All muscle. But from a standing jump, I've never seen anyone jump as high. You know, he must have been able to get sort of 4 or 5 feet off the ground. You know, for his feet to be 4, he could get so much higher. You know. Whether it was just brute strength, I don't know, but unbelievable, and a great header of the ball.
Oh yeah,
It hit the ball harder than some people could kick one.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a very powerful man, you know.
Yeah, he came to Seattle when Jimmy Gabriel was, and he played centre half. I did say one day we had a 5-a-side and the ball's come down. I've done something. I've come away with it. And he went to me, fucking how the hell do you do that? So I went, well, it's something we do, isn't it? You know, get away from someone. He says only one way to get away with someone is up there. Because they can't fucking kick you up there, he says. You know, and that was him, Ron, wasn't it?
He was
a great lad as well. I loved him. Great
lad.
He
was a lovely lad. I think he's gone, bless him as well.
Yes, yeah. He had
along with Jimmy Gabriel not long ago. He only went a year or two ago, didn't he?
Well, he had a bad ending, Jim, didn't he, with the dementia thing and all that. I think Ron died of a heart attack, Mike.
Did he? Oh, right.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I'll say, we've lost a lot of them now, bless them. But we just got to keep going, see what happens.
The COVID, mate. The COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I remember going out in Seattle with Ron, and we'd sit there and he'd be sketching. He'd find the most beautiful girl in the pub, and he'd
He'd paint them. Yeah, he was very good at caricatures as well.
Yeah. And the waitress would come across, and he said, "Will you give that to the girl over there?" And the girl would take it over, and the girl would look across and she'd say, "Oh, It works all the time. I'll sign that.
That's how we used to pull birds, was it?
Yeah.
What are they doing now? You've got to have a phone number now, haven't you? Jesus Christ! How did we get on? I don't know.
And a credit card.
Well, listen, we've had you on a long time. We better let you go, Mick. But before we do, it's been great having you on. We've got to talk to you about Southampton of today. I mean, it must break your heart to see them struggling the way they are.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that everyone says to me, "Oh, it must break you." But listen, never forget, Southampton ain't going to go away. Or if they get relegated, they might go down again the following year. But Southampton Football Club will survive. Never forget that. The club is bigger than anyone, and it will survive. It'll come back, maybe not in our time, but in 10, 15, 20, 100 years' time, Southampton will have a team again. And I think that's what history's about. And I think that, hey, listen, I was very lucky. I played Southampton. We had some great characters there. We had some good managers who brought in some good players. And, I was very lucky to play, obviously not play for Southampton, but play for England as well. And I wouldn't have played with Huddy, with you think what football's done to you. It took us around the world.
Absolutely.
It's been a brilliant life. Whatever happens from now on, you can't take away what we've had. It's been brilliant, Hud.
And I think exactly what you said is, compared to the day, the characters around them were just, whereas, we had Tommy Baldwin from Gateshead and Charlie come down from Dundee, Eddie from Stirling, all completely different people, but all crackpots, all nutcases.
But mind you, our club used to be full of jocks. We used to have more Scottish lads playing down at Southampton.
Yeah. Well, they were cheaper.
Oh, but that's what we had to have them. But they were great lads. Some of the lads, the other thing at Southampton, we used to have lads when they were just over the top. Your Jimmy Gabriels and John McGraths and Joe Kirkup. Remember Joe Kirkup? We had a lot of them.
Wait, didn't we swap him for Webby?
Yeah,
yep, that's right.
You took Webby off us.
Yeah.
And we listen. But hey, that's the way it was. They were great days, great characters, great people.
Well,
and I wouldn't change a thing, would you?
No, I don't think you could if you would, or you wanted to.
I know, but I'm saying,
I'd like in everybody looking for the perfect world. I'd like, obviously, I'd like to have played 70 times for England with you. Of course, I would change things, and I'd like Dodgy to have been a team, and Alan Bull and Bobby Moore, and gone around the world with you people, the lads, and that was what I feel hard done by with England, like the likes of Rebby, So, yeah. But it's not a bitterness. It's just what you've missed out on.
It was just the moment in time that you wanted it to be in your favour wasn't. And we all have our moments in time. And hey, thank God you got England caps. You got to play for England. Otherwise, that would have been a bigger crime.
Well.
Wouldn't it? And you think of Letizes and all these people. Now you look back, but mind you, they give them away now. They've devalued the bloody caps now. They only play 10 minutes and they get a bloody cap.
Well, I think Beckham got his last 20 coming on
yeah,
off
that's
the
right.
bench,
Yeah,
so he could be the record holder. You know.
yeah. Wow, that's
But,
hey. Listen, we're lucky. We've had a great run. We've had some great fun with some great people, and been a privilege to know yourself and
yeah,
all those other players, and the characters. Didn't always agree with them all. We used to have some rows as well. You didn't always agree with some of the players. They'd kick you up in the air. Next minute they'd pick you up. They'd be the nicest people in the world.
What was the worst row? Can you remember the worst row you had on the football field?
Oh, I don't know. I had some rows, but I had to be a bit careful because I was a forward player. When you're up there to be shot at, you don't go and make enemies. You get them anyway.
Be nice to them. Yeah.
That's what then is you just try and take advantage of whatever you can. You might have a chat with them and pretend you're interested, but you've got your eye on something else. That was the way it was. We all try to. It was always a little bit of gamesmanship in every sport or everything you do in life, just to try and get a little bit of an advantage.
Get the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. Just need that little edge. You're dead right.
How are you going to do in the yard this year?
I think. Listen, he's got some nice horses. He's got nearly 100 horses. The kid. He's mad about it. He's so enthusiastic. We bought some nice horses. We had a good horse last year. Was fourth in the Guineas and third in the Oaks. We sold for quite a bit of money, but hey, listen, you know what it's like. We need one of those rich football owners to come and spend 2 or 3 million here, and then we could have a bit more fun. But we'll probably get you down then, honey.
I'm coming down. The weather changes. I'm coming down to see you. Take you to lunch.
Well, you got to. All right. I look forward to it.
All right, Michael.
Thank you very much for, battering my ears for the last hour.
It's a pleasure. You've been doing the battering for a change. Great to see you.
You haven't done bad. Lovely to speak to you all.
I'll come down and see you for lunch. I'll buy you lunch.
Well done, mate.
Thanks, Mike.
Lovely meeting you all. Yeah.
Stop out.
Cheers, Mick.
Bye.